I'm Alex Howard.
And I'm Amanda Silver. And this is Dirty Laundry. Remember we were editing our picture and then we were focused on the wire?
That picture. I was picturing editing the episode.
No, we're literally down to the wire here.
The wire. And you know what? It's so perfectly representative of our roles in this partnership, whereby I'm like, no, it's fucking fine.
And I'm like fixated on like the little detail.
But I have one hair out of place. But this one wire. And
so
I'm like,
literally the wire was out of place.
No one's going to notice.
I want perfection. But I guess, what did our guests
Best
is the
enemy of better?
Something like that?
I
Best
know.
is the enemy of better.
Yeah, fuck, we really should have written that one down. I think we recorded
well, I'm sure
it.
we recorded it. We'll be good.
But it's so true. And it's like, remember when we had Martin on and he was like, it's the good enough relationship, the good enough marriage. Like that's it. It's like, stop striving for perfection. Let's like live in the messy middle where it's good and it's bad and it's fun. But it doesn't have to be perfect. But are you heeding your own advice?
I'm trying. But this was very important. It was our picture for our cover. It was our cover picture. And so there was like something we had to like adjust the picture because the wire was like didn't finish or something. And it was literally the night before I knew I was up against the clock because you have a very strict bedtime.
Well, that was the cutest thing because it was so like 8:30 and you're like, I know it's past your bedtime. But like, can we fix it?
I knew you were winding down.
Oh, I was literally in bed.
You were in bed, and I'm like, to me, it might as well have been noon. Like for me, 8:30 at night. And
meanwhile, I have like my mask on.
I
my
knew it. And it was like
in.
9:15. I was like, oh shit, she's probably. I'm keeping her up. I think it was 10 o'clock by the time we finished. And I was like, oh, that's it. I'm like, I've destroyed her day tomorrow. We were literally down to the wire. So
it was so great, but worth it because it's
so
now
worth
perfect.
It's perfect.
I mean, nobody would know the difference, but it's perfect. And I love it.
On today's episode of Dirty Laundry, we have Hesha Abrams, who has spent 30 years in conflict resolution. She's a lawyer, an author, and a keynote speaker, and she has recently published and written the book, Holding the Calm. So welcome, Hesha.
Yeah, where are you?
Today
I'm
in Florida, but I'm on a plane pretty much every week, either Silicon Valley or New York or Chicago or Miami or London or, wherever it is that people are messing with each other.
So pretty much every single place on earth.
Everywhere there are people.
Needs a Hesha.
Yeah, well, I'm going to Africa in a month, but I'm not going to do work there, I hope. We'll see.
That's just a vacation.
On safari, so.
Oh my gosh, my dream.
I know, it's like such a bucket list item. That sounds amazing. Oh my gosh,
that's wonderful.
Well, before we can get you there, let's talk about conflict.
Indeed.
How does one find themselves in a world of conflict? I mean, Amanda and I know how we got into this, but it's not really for everyone.
Right.
Not everyone runs towards the fire, if you will.
Oh, no. Conflict,
select few.
Opportunity, right? Please bring it on.
Exactly. So how did you find yourself in this work?
Well, I'm a lawyer. And honestly, what really happened for me when I was young is in 1 week, I won a case I should have lost and I lost a case I should have won, all because of politics. And I had a crisis of this cannot be the way it is. There has to be a better way. And I found mediation, and I've been doing it now for 3 decades. I have done every kind of case you can imagine, from, toxic breast implants to wrongful death to suing Google over search on patents and, $1 billion. I mean, I've done absolutely everything. And I've learned a few tricks along the way, and I've made a lot of speeches, and people are always saying, you got to write a book. Who had time to write a book? Working, you're raising kids, you're doing what you're doing. And then finally, because of COVID, I was, a little bit grounded, and I had a hysterectomy, which, knock on wood, turned out fine, but I was grounded and the book poured out of me. And what I wanted is a simple $15, inexpensive little paperback that can be read in 2 hours that will tell you what to do right now in a difficult situation without taking some master course or getting some degree or, let's win-win problem solving or that kind of junk. Yeah. No. How do I deal with this moron that I have to deal with?
That's exactly it.
Because we're all dealing with these morons. That's life. I love it.
And when you're going through a divorce, I mean, even more so.
Even more so.
Right?
Even more so. Divorce is, I've been through divorce myself. It is very unpleasant. I wish we could figure out a decoupling procedure that is better, but the problem is everyone is so hurt and wounded. And by the time the divorce actually happens, we've waited too long. So it's really bitter and brutal and we just have to get through it as best as you possibly can. So some of this stuff can actually help tame the wild beast.
No, and it's really tangible. It's really easy, digestible teachings in your book. And I did read actually it quite quickly. So you're bang on with your mission, I guess, and your goal with the book. So one of the things that jumped out at me pretty early on in your book was that you have this sort of list of let's say, frequently asked questions that people ask in conflict. And interestingly, your answer for all of them was the same. So things like, how do you stop conflict? How do you handle if someone's yelling or attacking you, or if they're crying, or if they simply won't even speak, if they're racist, homophobic, yada, yada. How do you find a solution when one is impossible? And your answer is...
always
holding the calm. Yeah, always holding the calm. So tell us what that means. I mean, it's the title of your book. It seems to be your sort of mantra, if you will. What does that mean to you? What do you want our listeners to take away from that?
So I love that you connected all of that together. Thank you for that. And it was a real challenge for me because I used it for myself, but titling the book that made some of the publisher people think it was a Zen, kumbaya, touchy-feely thing. I'm like, no. This is a book for carnivores. This is a book for when it's hard and it's tough and it's difficult. So the question is, why doesn't it work when someone's upset to say, calm down or take a few breaths? I mean, all it does is put gasoline on the fire. It makes it worse. Yeah. So I have a theory that with 3 decades in the trenches of human conflict, I know is correct, that all conflict, all of it, comes from power. Either I have it and I want to keep it, or I want to take power from you, or I want to stop you from taking power from me. And so it all gets into this power dynamic. And so when you get in a power dynamic, the amygdala, which is the fear and negativity center in the brain, the fight-flight response, opens up. And when it opens up, the prefrontal cortex here in the top of your head stops thinking. It literally goes dark. And we've proven this in MRI machines and stuff like that. So being logical, being rational, being reasonable, it's the absolutely worst thing you can do because that part of the brain has gone dark. And when someone is trying to rationalize you or logicate you or tell you to calm down, all it does to the amygdala is go power, 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 and it freaks out more. So what you want to do is you want to have a quick, easy way to tell your amygdala, I have power. I am not powerless. I have choices. I have options, girlfriend. I can do this. So I say, I am holding the calm. That immediately triggers to my brain, okay, I'm not powerless here. I've got options and choices, and I've got things to do. It calms the amygdala the frick down. There's not a saber-toothed tiger chasing me. What do I choose to do? And it's a technique I've used for myself, and it works. It absolutely works. And you can do it for yourself. You can do it for other people. And I wrote the book with 20 little techniques, simple little things that you can do right now to be like magic beans in your pocket of fixing something or getting it, not being cattywampus, getting it back on the right track and going in the right way that it needs to go without being superior or self-righteous or arrogant, and giving yourself grace because you're going to screw up. I kind of bless everyone. Ha, 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 you're going to screw up. What do you do when you screw up? How do you do it? How do you give someone else the choice to screw up and ask for a do-over? Do-over is the greatest thing in the history of the world.
I love a do-over. We always talk about rupture, repair, repeat. Like this is the cycle that we're on with humans, relationships, conflict, what have you. So holding the calm, if I'm understanding you, is essentially instead of someone else telling you take a breath, calm down. It's you telling yourself, it's you calming your own, let's say, nervous system, that amygdala brain, the reptilian brain that's like totally ready to pounce. So it's taking the power back.
Yes.
And calming yourself so that you can get back into that rational brain. Is that right?
Correct.
Love it.
Correct. And you do it for yourself. And this is what, let's say you're just hot. I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. What did that take? A second and a half?
Yeah. Right.
And it says to your brain, you are not powerless, because that's what happens. You need power. Oh yeah, I do have tools. Oh yeah, I do not handle this. Oh yeah, I have some options, rather than running away, crying, fighting, screaming, attacking. Those are not great tools. And yet those are the ones at the top of the list, right? So let's push those down and have others up there. They're easy to do. Easy to do.
I think this is so pertinent to people who are going through the divorce process. I mean, I see it in mediation. I see it with my clients who you could see the amygdala is just firing because they're in such a fight or flight situation. And then I'm asking them to like, okay, and what do we think about, decision making? Yeah. And what do we think about, who's holding the passports or what have you? And they have to make these decisions when they're so like worked up and they have the person across from them, it's usually on Zoom, who is just feeding that fire and is just knows the buttons to push. And so how do you help someone in that situation?
I love the question because let's backtrack to something you said. They know the buttons to push. So why? Why do people push the buttons? Because it gives them power. I can make you dance like a little bunny for me. Yeah. And I know exactly how to do it. Boop, boop. And it happens. Now, sometimes it's conscious. People intentionally do this. Sometimes it's subconscious. I refuse to be a little bunny jumping for someone else's pleasure. I refuse. I'm not going to do it. And let's say I do it because my amygdala gets triggered. I pull myself back and go, yeah, we're not going to play football. We're going to play tennis because I'm way better at tennis than I am at football. So I'm not a 300-pound linebacker. So I'm not going to play your game. We're going to play my game. So I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. I stop for a minute and I see what's going on, what's happening. And then I have a whole lot of triggers and ways to do it. So one of my most favorite, I have on my website, I have a bunch of little 1-minute videos on how to handle specific situations. And I did one on how to handle Thanksgiving dinner with the weirdo uncle that likes to poke you and stir stuff up and to do weird things like that. Or your idiot sister-in-law or brother-in-law. I mean, we all have idiots that we have to deal with, right? Yeah. So this is the best technique, and you can use it all the time if you can hold the calm for yourself. You say something. I don't care what it is. It doesn't make a difference what it is. I stop and I look at you and I say, you know what I admire about you? And you stop. The other person stops talking, don't they? Instantly.
They want to hear. They want to compliment.
Right? I want you won't stop talking. I want you to shut up. That's how I get you to shut up. I need to hear what you have to say, right? And then you choose your verb. Don't say I love you and I like you because that's overused. So it doesn't really do any good. I respect you. I admire you. And do it for something true. I respect your position. I admire your passion. I respect your passion. I like the fact that you're so committed to this. I mean, it's those kind of, depending on the situation, whatever you can say. And in my book, I have a bunch of sentence stems. And people have told me that they memorize them or they put them on their phone, like a little note. I have people that put them on Post-it notes on their desks so that in the moment of trigger, you look down and go, okay, and you have a sentence stem. It stops it cold. So if the other person is super wound up, they literally pull back and go, I don't know how to handle it, right? Which is great. Let's say they do know how to handle it. Well, I'm glad you see my position. I do. Right. Now, there's no argument. I'm not going to argue you out of your position, or I'm not going to present facts to show you how stupid or wrong you are. That's not going to work. But I stop it. So the goal is, what's your goal? Do I want to stop the onslaught? Do I want to move them in another direction? Do I want to protect myself? What do I want? And in that moment of I'm holding the calm, you get clarity of what you want, and then you do that. Because I'm not going to change your mind. I'm not going to convince you. I just made you move you out of the way or stop you attacking me. Or, say you're at a business meeting and someone takes your idea. That happens to women a lot, doesn't it? Right?
A lot,
I'd be able to say, I really respect the fact that you can see a good idea when you see it. When you and I talked about that on Tuesday, I feel very validated that you have brought that up. Right. Thank you for that. Who has the power in that interchange?
And actually, that leads me to, I think it was my last question on the ones that I sent to you, but I love it so much. And I think it's kind of perfect. We jump into this right now because it reminds me of having to have the last word. It reminds me of this idea of being embarrassed. We're so afraid to look silly, to lose. We always want to save face and compensate. And often we're doing that with words by engaging in the combat of, an unhealthy dynamic. But why are we so afraid to look foolish or look silly or be different? I mean, I know survival techniques, evolution, yada, yada. We were a tribe, this and this. But have we just not caught up? I mean, there's got to be something more to that in this, in 2024, where we're still so terrified.
We are. And, it's very interesting. I do a lot of reading on neuroscience because I'm in the business of human beings.
Yeah.
In every list of what people are afraid of, the first one is speaking before a group. The second is death. The third is spiders. The fourth is snakes. Right. So that means that speaking before a group where you could be embarrassed is worse than death, spiders, or snakes.
Exactly. This is the Seinfeld skit where he's like, I would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy at the funeral. That's our fear hierarchy.
Yes.
It's wild.
But I think that's just a caveman, cavewoman, reptilian thing that if you didn't have part of a tribe, you died. I mean, if you were outside the campfire, you were eaten by a wild animal. That's just what it was.
Yeah.
And so
so it doesn't go above that.
It just is that. And so for some people, you overcome it. For others, okay, that's not your challenge. So then don't put yourself in that situation. If you don't want to overcome that challenge, don't. Look at I used to be a good skier. Now, I'm afraid of whacking out my knee. So I'm going to choose not to undergo that challenge and become an expert skier. You are allowed to choose what you want to do, but you're not allowed. Well, you shouldn't say not allowed. It's not wise to dig yourself a hole and hide in there unless that's a technique. And if you're hiding from a terrorist, okay, maybe that's a good technique. So everything is tactical. What do I want to do? What outcome do I choose? What outcome do I want to create from this? You can't sit on a couch wanting to lose weight, watching reality TV and eating chips. Okay? That is a choice. You can do that, but you will get a certain outcome from it.
Right. In talking about the outcome and getting sort of what you want out of an argument, you talk about the sandwich technique. And so I'm curious of how that would work, because it involves giving some type of compliment.
Yes.
And in the work that we do, that could be difficult for some of our clients to give some type of compliment to someone who at that moment they are just at a war with.
Oh, yeah. It may not be a technique you use when you're at war. It really isn't. That's a technique that you would use more to prevent a war or in a cold peace to get to a warmer peace. Now, because if you do it in the war, it's going to sound condescending and patronizing, and it will actually backfire on you. So that's one of the things I talk about in the book is, that's why I have 20 techniques. When I'm holding the calm and I'm quiet for a minute, I'm diagnosing. So the analogy is there's a bomb in the town square. That guy waddles out in his Michelin suit. He doesn't just start cutting wires. He looks, he diagnoses. Is there a pressure switch? Is it chemical? Is it remote control? What is it? When things are hot, you want to diagnose what is happening here and what do I choose to do? That's the number one skill set thing that happens when you learn how to do something like holding the calm is you have that level of power. Now, I'm going to choose something different. Now, it might be a safety issue. It might be I need to go away issue. It might be I need to humiliate you and make fun of you. I mean, let's be honest here. It might mean that I need to pacify you so I can do something else. what do we want? This is not kumbaya. This is a real jungle. And and everyone, especially women, we want everything to be nice and loving and good. And if I just talk to you nice, you'll talk to me nice. And I say, everyone, raise your hands how often that really works.
Yeah.
Right. And we all do it. It's just part of the beauty of being a woman, and it's not even just women, also kind, gentle men. It's a kind, gentle thing, but you live in a jungle and there are predators, and predators search out prey. It's just the way it is. So how do you make yourself less prey-like? How do you develop more skills so that you are stronger and better to live the kind of life you want to live? Tremendous power and self-esteem comes from this stuff. It really does.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
And at a time of conflict in a divorce, most often than not, and correct me if I'm wrong, both of you that have been through this, your self-esteem is pretty much in the pits, right? This is a horrible life. And the person not a horrible life, excuse me, a horrible point in your life, very difficult.
Yes.
The person who you are currently at war with is the one that you used to share a bed with and all of your intimacies and whatever that means for you.
Yes.
And now, here you are.
Yes,
you're not at your best when you're, going through
your
it.
Confidence
You're
not
right? Feeling your best.
No, exactly. And maybe now you're imagining trying to get out in the dating world. And again, here you are feeling, maybe at your lowest. It's really tricky. So I do love that you said that. Yeah, not only are you taking power back, but you're actually building up your confidence. And I feel like it's almost like any sort of muscle, right? Like even we talk about willpower being a muscle. Your willpower is way stronger in the morning than it is at night. That's why we have nighttime snacks. We don't start our morning with chips and a glass of wine, but maybe we're ending it because we're exhausted and our willpower, that muscle, has plummeted.
Yes.
And so this is a way, like by holding the calm, by taking a breath, by, using that moat analogy, you're strengthening that muscle.
Yeah, and you're sending a message to others.
No, I'm not even thinking about outward. I'm thinking just internal. And we know that when we do stuff that, at the end of the day, when you can say, I'm really proud of myself. I got out for that walk, or, maybe I didn't have that, glass of wine at the end of the night. I soothed in a different way, whatever that is, you feel so much more confidence. You feel that pride inside. And at a time, again, when it's lowest, I like that we're focusing a bit inward and reclaiming a lot of who you are, who you once were, who you want to get back to being.
Yes.
It's lovely. It's not really, yes, it's about maybe choosing a war or a sport, as you said, your tennis analogy, or a game that you can be better at. But to me, it's more inward. But I'm the woo-woo of this
But
group.
See, I look at it as when you're going through a divorce, you're doing both. You're fighting two battles.
Sure.
Yes.
You're fighting the inner battle, which is I need to build myself up again.
Yeah.
I need to be out in the world as an independent. I need to conquer my fears and all of those things that you just talked about. But then at the same time, you might be dealing, usually with someone who is not in agreement with you and is pushing your buttons, and you need to set boundaries with that as well.
No, I love that.
So it's like, it's both, right?
Yeah.
So let me give everyone a wonderful analogy on this. We tend to go to the doctor and say, give me a pill and make it better now. Okay? Human gestation takes 9 months. Gestation for an elephant, 2.5 years, right? So it depends on what you're birthing.
Ouch.
So the first thing I like to give people is give yourself grace. When you go through a divorce, it's almost like having all the skin burned off your body. And there needs to be time for the new skin to grow in and allow the new you, with all the wisdom and learning and experience you've been through, to develop. So it's not going to happen fast, and you don't want to. Because we all know about rebounds and stuff like that. Anything you do fast is not going to be very good.
Yeah.
So giving yourself grace, loving yourself, making mistakes, having a do-over, having boundaries. I will not respond to that email. That by itself gives you self-esteem, because I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could not respond when the other person jacked. I don't have to. So all of that self-esteem is built by experiences, not by gifts, not by classes. It's built by doing it. And as you do it, you then get to look back and go, whoa, look at that. Look at how I handled that. And a lot of the validation, as you said, has to happen internally, because people outside, Sometimes they see it, sometimes they don't. They've got their own dramas they're going through. And quite frankly, in a divorce, people are tired of your drama. They're exhausted from it. They got their own to deal with. So it's a very internal person becoming thing. And you are, this is when I shared some of my own personal trauma with my new husband now, I just vomited all this stuff out to him because I needed him to hear and understand. And he looked at me and he said, the hottest fire makes the finest steel.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, I like that.
Hey,
I like that.
okay. So if you look at every single thing you go through has purpose and meaning to help you become who you are destined to become. It takes away little of the sting. Little is, I don't like it. I don't enjoy this, but it takes away a little of the sting because you are working on that next path into this magnificent creature that you're going to be, and then share with others and help others. How glorious is that,
So speaking of your 20 techniques, tell us about the dinner table versus the conference table.
So what happens is that I like pizza. Why aren't you eating pizza? I made pizza. What's wrong with you? Everyone eats pizza. I never took the time to find out that you're gluten intolerant. I could have made your cauliflower crust, couldn't I? How about ice cream? We're all going out for ice cream. Everyone loves ice cream. You weirdo, you don't like ice cream? I didn't find out you were lactose intolerant. Isn't that true with everything? So if I'm a good host at my dinner table, wouldn't I find that out about my guests? Same thing is true at my conference table. I can't speak the same to an introvert as I would to an extrovert. That would just be foolish. How about a thinker person versus a feeling person? How about a detail person versus a big picture person? That's just 3 simple questions. And we're all listening to this going, yeah, but we don't do that. We tend to do what we are, and there's that book, The 5 Love Languages, which I think is a great book and I like it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. If I want to give you a gift, is it a gift that I want to give you? Or is it a gift that will be received at maximum value from you? So if I want to deliver a message, do I want to make sure I have the maximum receptivity to my message? Hell yeah. But we don't tend to do that. We tend to just throw seeds on the ground and dump some water on them and say, well, I hope they sprout.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
It's just not an advanced skill set. Once you learn the advanced skill set, it's not hard. Now I look at you. So I'm listening to you talk. You're talking, blah, 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 blah. I'm listening for content, but I'm also looking at who are you? Exactly right.
I feel like it's also very nuanced, and especially again as women, like this to me, and maybe because this is what I'm working on personally, this seems to me to be trending towards people pleasing and accommodating instead of putting your own needs first. What would you say to that?
So
to a recovering
that's very
people pleaser.
Interesting. On a bell curve, which goes like this, you always have 10% here, 10% here, and 80% in the middle, right? I'm a big believer of the middle. So people pleasing is a problem, right? Narcissistic behavior, well, I don't care about you at all, is a problem. I'm not going to go on either side of that. I'm going to come from the place of power where I'm going to diagnose. Now, if I need to get you to do something, okay, if we have an easygoing relationship, I'm just going to ask you and we're going to talk about it. But let's assume it's not easy. Let's assume there's problems for whatever reason. All right, a hard mother-in-law, right? Take a step back. See them, what would work most effectively with them. So let me talk nice, like, oh, skill set development. Now let me talk hard, bait in a cage. It's all holding the calm. Who are you talking to? What are you trying to get? Let's say you have a narcissistic, horrible mother-in-law, just terrible. All right, you're not going to change that, right? Bait in a cage. What bait do I need to put in the cage to get you to either do or not do something? It's as simple as trying to get what you want done. Now, if we can develop a relationship and understand each other and have it be mutual respect, great.
Yeah.
That's 10%. Maybe 20% if you're super lucky. What about the 80% where I don't like you, I don't respect you, you're an alcoholic, you're criticizing my mothering, you're blah, 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 blah. Okay, you deal with the bomb what it is. This is all about being real on what it is. And for each person, it's going to be different. For each person you interact with, it's going to be different. I don't want to eat macaroni and cheese every single day. Occasionally, it's okay. I'll have a bite of my kids' mac and cheese. So what are you going to eat today? What are you going to do? And what I tell people is this should be taught in schools, and it's not. So this is, again, why I wrote, and I did it as an inexpensive little 15-minute, $15 book, because I want people to have access to it. And you know what I say? Try one thing. Just one. Now, oh, wow, look at that. I'm so surprised it actually worked. Okay, I'm going to try a different thing now. And you develop the mastery you want. I walk a lot. My husband runs marathons. I'm not running a marathon. No, I'm not going to do that. He loves doing them. Okay, he has his skill set. I'll do yoga. I do my skill set. That's what I want to encourage everyone to think about. Wherever you are right now, how can we get a little better? That's it. That's it. That's your only obligation. Then how can we get a little better? That's it. And over some period of time and practice, you're going to get damn good at it.
And I wonder too, Hesha, do you say, like, Evan, as the author, 20 techniques, could you say that maybe this technique works well for this personality type, or this technique works well if you're trying to get, this end goal? Like, can we cherry pick which one would work depending on the circumstance? Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like if you're dealing with your mother-in-law, your mother-in-law.
Well,
like
your mother-in-law,
like, that's not going to work. Or that is
exactly
or your ex or whomever it is. You're gonna know.
But is it more?
I guess right. And this is the thing I would tell you too. Validation is the WD-40 of the universe. It is unbelievable.
My love language. Preach. I love this so much.
I mean, you somebody really difficult, I guarantee you they have a poor skill set. Guaranteed you. And if they're an angry, cranky person, I guarantee you they're not being loved. They're not being valued. They're not being respected. Now, it's hard when they're coming at you, to go, I'm going to be, priestly here or Buddha-like.
The bigger person.
Okay. But a small, little, tiny compliment, like, I thought you handled that really well. That was a tough situation, and you handled that well. They're going to do a does not compute, because they think you're the twit, you're the bitch, you're horrible, right?
Yeah.
But you then catch them doing it good, or validate, or say, I know that was a tough situation and you didn't respond. I really admire that. Or, I didn't feel criticized, and you know how hard this is for me. Thank you for that. I'm telling you, you will take the temperature down. And this is what I tell people. Again, best is the enemy of better. Is if I'm in a conflict with someone, you are 90% sure you are right. No one's 100%, even though you say it. There's always a little margin for error. You are 90% sure you are right. I don't have to get you to 0. I only have to get you to 60%. That's it. Because 60% is very close to 50. And if it's 50, it could go either way, couldn't it? So if I can take you from your 90% right to 60% right, maybe I'm a little right. Maybe there's a little something here. Who knows? That's all I have to do. It's the best is the enemy of better thing. Just make it a little better. And then before you know it, the other person will say, well, I thought you were a real nasty piece of work, but you're not so bad. Great.
That's great.
Yeah. Validation is so powerful. I mean, this is the tip I give any parent at any age of child. It's like all they want is to be seen and heard and finally loved.
Isn't that what everybody wants?
It's literally the human condition.
It really
is. And we're
is.
so bad at doing it.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest problem, is that everyone is so concerned with themselves, right? We talked about this whole embarrassing thing. It's like, we don't want to show any weakness. We don't want to, just everyone's so focused inward. And if we just took a second to go, I see you. I know you had hurt or struggles or traumas.
Right.
I get it. But also, we need to solve these problems that are currently, that we're faced with. So it's such a powerful tool.
And what I would suggest to people, especially that are parents, if you go on my website, holdingthecalm.com, like I said, I've done 200 podcasts. Some of them have been workplace. Some of them have been ICEO. Some have been dealing with teenagers. and I have all kinds of tips and tricks for how you handle some of that. And what I always tell people, who would raise their hand and say, yes, make me a teenager again?
Yeah, oh my God.
Right. Nobody in their right mind. It's the most horrible
do you want to do
life.
prom again?
No, you don't want to be a teenager.
Think about how horrible that is. And yet these kids are going through it. They need our help going through it because it is brutal. Testosterone is the most dangerous drug known to humankind. And it is coursing through those little boys' bodies.
Wow.
Estrogen is enough to be a dragon to make you crazy. And it is coursing through our girls' bodies. They need help on how to do it. So the more you can do it for you, the more you model it and show them. And all I can say is proof of my claim is I got great relationships with all my kids, my in-law kids, and my grandchildren. And I use all these techniques on them. And there are times,
you're living proof.
I'll tell you.
They're your little guinea pigs, and it worked.
My son was, I think he was 22 or something like that. And he asked me something, and I said, well, you could do this or you could do this. I was, oh, Mom, for God's sakes, don't mediate me. Just tell me what to do. And I said, welcome to adulthood. As a teenager, it's don't tell me what to do. As an adult, it's, oh, please, God, tell me what to do.
Please tell me what to do. When to do it. Yes.
Someone just choose the answer for me.
Well, this has been so wonderful and so eye-opening. And I mean, real practical tips.
I was going to say
how to deal with conflict.
Get the book. If you
get the book.
Are living on planet Earth and you are
probably have conflict with somebody in your life.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Because it's tangible. There's great anecdotes, which make it fun and a quick, easy read, but it's still chock-a-block full of amazing tips.
Thank you.
Final tip that you want to send our listeners off with, or have you said all you need to be said?
Well, there's always more to say, of course. But I would say give yourself grace, everybody. This is hard stuff. Love yourself. Love yourself first.
Yeah.
And give yourself a yay me that I'm listening to this podcast, that I'm trying to get better, and I'm going to get better. Yay me. Right? Everybody give yourselves a little yay me.
Thanks so much, Hesha. You take care. Enjoy your safari.
Thank you
so much for being here.
Bye.
Right.
Be well.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.